right, guys. So I am thrilled to be joined this morning by Marianne Williamson, who is not only a former presidential candidate who was right about many things, and maybe the party would be in the country would be in a much better shape if they had listened to her, but also is a best-selling author and just all around fantastic person and thinker who I always enjoy picking their brain. Great to see you, Marianne.
Oh, it's always good to see you. Thank you, Krystal.
All right. So you are doing something. It's bold. Let's just say it's bold. You've decided to run for DNC chair. And I'll just put this New York Times reporting on the DNC chair race up, which, of course, scarcely mentions you in it and describes you as a, quote, perennial presidential candidate, which is very dismissive. They outline a race between Ken Martin and Ben Wickler, who are two state party chairs. Just give us a little bit of a sense, because this is as in the weeds as it gets, these very insular races for party chair. Give us a sense of the contours of that race and why you specifically decided to jump into it.
Well, of course, after my own experience, I was curious how the DNC actually runs. You can't get more into the weeds of the effects of the behavior of the DNC than running for president. I saw the corruption. I saw the way a apparently small group of people felt they had the right to decide, for instance, to cancel a primary, which is so ludicrous and has delivered us to where we are now and what we're about to experience for the next 4 years. So, of course, I was curious. And I was curious if the DNC would be looking in the mirror. I was curious about where they would go from here. I was just observing. Now, Ken Martin in my campaign's interactions was always a gentleman. He was ethical. He was honorable. Have only the greatest things to say. But I also saw other behavior, such as we're going to win by kicking people off the ballots, et cetera. The more I observed in terms of the conversation going on in the race, just through a cursory look at the media, et cetera, I realized nobody's suggesting a fundamental change here. Nobody is addressing the deeper levels of malfunction. That's the thing. When it comes to the DNC, we're not talking about dysfunctional. When you're losing Pennsylvania, you're losing Michigan, you're losing Wisconsin, you're losing Ohio, all these red states, this is beyond dysfunction. This is into malfunction. That's when I decided to jump in. But
go ahead, Marianne, finish your thought.
That was just the beginning. What's really been amazing is what I have discovered since. Because in order to get up to those 40 signatures, in order to be a qualified candidate, you have to get on the phone and you're calling members of the DNC. There's one group, the one that has invisibilized and mocked and character assassinated me from the beginning, who clearly took this idea, do not answer her calls, do not return her texts, etc. But the people I would get on the phone, what I learned is how this organization operates. The vast majority of the members of the DNC are deeply disempowered. The DNC itself runs, its governance model is everything we say we don't want this country to be. It's a small group of elite, very opaque, by the way. You might have heard Zogby talk about the fact he's on the budget committee and he doesn't know the numbers. A small group of elite who take the same view within the organization that I felt as a candidate. Look, we got this. We're the grown-ups here. We know how this is done. We don't need your input. Really? Let me repeat. You lost Michigan, you lost Pennsylvania, you lost Wisconsin. You're losing the country. And Donald Trump is about to be inaugurated on January 20th. Meanwhile, there are incredible people who are members of the DNC. There is so much talent there. There's so much passion for everything you and I believe in. So much of a real devotion to progressive governance. So the first thing you have to do is return the DNC itself, if it ever was. I don't know, but put it now into alignment with the principles that we say. Right now, basically what this is about is a consultancy class, whether it is SDK Knickerbocker or Precision Strategies or whatever. This is about their having money This is about their multi-million-dollar contracts, which are the governing principle. Their profits are the governing principle of the DNC. It is a failed business model. It is a failed messaging model. It is a failed organizing model. And you need a head of the DNC who's going to go in there, know what's really happening, which I believe the majority of DNC members do know. But a leader chairman of the DNC who goes in and sets those things straight to the greatest possible extent.
It's truly a racket. And
it is.
I know that you've actually obtained a significant milestone. You were able to get the 40 signatures required to be a quote unquote official candidate, which means you get to participate in all the forums, get to officially make your case. Is that what that effectively means?
Yeah, we had 42 by the time we said, we got it.
Let's go.
So yes, later this afternoon, I'll be on the labor forum. Tomorrow, I'll be on the forum having to do with the state parties. It's very exciting. There's one in Detroit. There are two online. There's another one in Washington, D.C. So I'm the candidate for those who know that incremental change is not going to do it. More bells and whistles is not going to do it. You've got to recognize the corruption that's in the bones of this thing.
Yeah.
And that's the truth we're telling here.
My fear is right after Election Day, there seemed to be some genuine shock, possible soul searching going on, even among Democratic elites. And that seems to have really faded. You have people like Jim Clyburn saying, everyone just needs to chill. It's fine. Hakeem Jeffries put back in with no dissent as, leader in the House. Even the contours of this DNC chair race. I mean, I know the odds you're up against, right? You've got the New York Times effectively, to their credit, writing not a lot of soul searching that we're seeing from Democratic elites, at least vis-a-vis this DNC party chair race. And you have comments being made like these from Chuck Schumer that effectively indicate Democrats don't have a reality problem. We need to tweak the messaging a little bit because people aren't really understanding just how absolutely incredible we are. Let's just go ahead and take a listen to a little bit from Senator Chuck Schumer. And then I just love to hear from you where you think Democrats went astray and what you're hearing in terms of the level of soul searching or lack thereof.
All too often, Kristen, we talked about the mechanics of the legislation and the details of the legislation, and we really didn't show the kind of empathy and concern to average or show enough of it to average working families who didn't realize how much we had done and how much we care for them. So what we're going to do is spend a lot of time talking to working families, showing them how much we care about them.
So, again, this frames this as purely a messaging issue. And look, I do think Democrats have a messaging issue too. They had a president of the United States. They have a president of the United States who is really unable to articulate much of anything about much of anything. But to purely look at this as, we just need to, fine-tune the messaging and really tell working class people just how amazing we've been for them, I think is incredibly condescending and just utterly misses the point. And of course, lets all of the people that you're talking about, the consultant class and the elites that led us down this disastrous path as a country, and certainly for the Democratic Party, lets them completely off the hook.
Well, there's a lot here, including the fact that what would consulting firms on K Street in Washington, D.C. know about how to talk to people in Kansas? Even if they wanted to, or know how to talk to people in Nebraska, or know how to talk to people in North Dakota. Meanwhile, once again, going back to the membership of the DNC, you have members who do know, who have been working in those states for sometimes decades, and their voices are nullified. They are given very little in terms of money. They're just always begging for some help from the DNC. Now, the greatest deviation is not on the matter of messaging. It's on the matter of values and principles. And what does progressive governance mean? What are the values of the Democratic Party? But he's not entirely wrong, because the Republicans are very good about tending to their base. They talk to people all year in a non-condescending way, and they keep people informed. Now, unfortunately, for people like us, they keep them informed, but always through the lens of, the Republican playbook. What the Democrats have done, and I think to some extent that's what Senator Schumer was referring to, basically just show up every 2 or 4 years, always with a gimme attitude. Give us your votes, give us your money. Then you're supposed to just assume that we're going off into our wood-paneled rooms and we're doing what's best for you, right? And then we'll be back in 2 years to talk to you.
Yeah.
I do feel to some extent the Republicans don't walk their talk, but the Democrats haven't talked their walk. One of the reasons I want to be chair is that, if the Democrats have the White House, you have the largest megaphone in the world. If you have the Speaker of the House, you have a large megaphone. If you're in control of the Senate. We're not going to have any of those things over the next session. So the DNC has to be the megaphone. That's why it's not enough. Even the best of them who are talking about traditional political activism, we've got to become a prophetic voice, which is what traditionally the Democratic Party was. Someone who is out there and creating an entire communications network and infrastructure to be talking to people. And a lot of that has to do with unleashing the power of those in these states who know how to talk to people in their states, including the fact if you're going to have a consulting firm working in Kansas, it should be a consulting firm in Kansas. It is the money. When you were saying it's a racket, it's the money that's kept right here. Earlier, you were talking about O'Malley, talking about how and David Pluff saying we need more money.
Yeah. Well, I have that clip. Let me just play that clip so people know what we're talking about here.
And then I'll explain what that really means, right?
Yeah, because it is extraordinary. So David Pluff, we covered on this show, I'm sure you watched the big Pod Save interview with the Kamala Harris senior staff where they're like, we were perfect. We did everything right.
People just don't understand.
And one of the only critique, effectively, I don't want to overly generalize, but basically the only critique was David Pluff saying we should have been a little more corrupt the way the Republicans were. That's your takeaway. In any case,
that's what we need to discuss.
O'Malley gets asked this question about, hey, do you agree with David Pluff on this? From Jen Psaki over on MSNBC. Let's go ahead and take a listen to a bit of that exchange.
Let me ask you about something that David Pluff said on Pod Save America, someone you and I both know. He said, quote, we have to stop playing a different game as it relates to super PACs than Republicans. They coordinate more than we do. I'm just sick and tired of it. And he was talking about kind of legal advisors saying to the DNC and others, you can't coordinate at all with super PACs while Republicans are doing that. What do you make of that?
I think there's to that observation, and that's what I've heard as well, talking to people, both lawyers and also people within the DNC. We need to make greater use of the flexibilities, not to do things illegally, but we need to be making greater use of the flexibilities in the law, especially for moving money around, spending dollars appropriately on things so that, say, Hakeem Jeffries and his congressional candidates don't have to spend that money on if we can do it as a party. So we need to make better use of all of the flexibilities that are in the law, because Lord knows we're getting pounded because of some of them. We need to make sure that we are playing by this new and ever developing set of rules without compromising our principles. We're not above the law. We believe in a republic where no one's above the law, but we do have greater flexibilities than we're currently using.
Use more flexibility in the law, Marianne. What do you say to that?
What these people are doing, including Pluff, are trying to deflect from what really happened here. Remember, Hillary Clinton had a lot more money than Donald Trump did. And we all know the stories about the absurd expenditures of the Harris campaign. The real story here is not that they need more money. The real story is about what they spend their money on. The real story is about these consulting firms. It's a consultancy class about their money, about their contracts that they get, by the way, whether the Democrats are in power or not. Meanwhile, I had a meeting with some people from the state parties, and they had sent me a document about the money that the DNC was going to be giving to the state parties. And I looked at it, Krystal, and I thought, maybe I'm reading the wrong numbers. And then I read it again. And then I picked up my phone and I used a calculator. And then I read it again. Maybe my calculator's broken. It was like the budget of a small nonprofit. We're talking about having to save our democracy here. And this is a consultancy class. They're talking about getting more money. They want to get more money. They want to do more with super PACs, by the way, in order to feed themselves, because they're not feeding the states. And not only that, They're not even feeding themselves in a way. Once again, I'm going to say it again. These people lost Michigan. These people lost Pennsylvania. These people lost Wisconsin. These people lost Ohio. The entire template, the entire paradigm of how things work and the governance of the DNC needs to change. That is what I believe a lot of the members of the DNC do realize. These are some very good people and some very smart people. Nobody's dumb here. Everybody gets what's happened. Now the issue is, are we willing to demand the changes? And this is the first time, this race is the first time in a long time that the membership of the DNC does have the opportunity to say, you know what? We're going in another direction. Yours is a failed template. And if we continue with that without addressing the deeper problems, there won't be any real change. If we want a different government in the House, if we want a different government in the White House in 4 years, we're going to have to be a different Democratic Party. Trump is a political sorcerer. We have to meet the level of his frequency psychologically and emotionally with the American people. And you're certainly not going to do that with people with fake tattoos on TikTok and, languaging, when people were telling me, some of the ways that the people in their state were offended by the verbiage. So that when Senator Schumer says we didn't talk to them enough, even when you talk to them in ways that have nothing to do with that single mother who works at Walmart. She's got 2 kids. This whole thing needs to change, and we have the membership. I'm absolutely sure of it. You have so much energy and talent to be unleashed within the membership of the DNC, but that elite establishment, which doesn't even report the numbers of where that money is going, but purports to be the ones who know and the ones who know how to do this. That entire template of governance needs to change, and I would change it.
Well, in a sane world, many people within the party elites would be looking to you and saying, in terms of the domestic message that you were running on, you were absolutely right. Some of them are even admitting now, that Bernie Sanders, that class-based analysis in the party, maybe they were onto something. They'd be admitting that. They'd be admitting how wrong they were to block you and others and really, just completely cancel the primary process in certain instances. And they'd be saying, these are the type of voices that we need in the party, elevated so that we can dramatically turn this ship. Unfortunately, we aren't seeing that reckoning within the elites, but I pray that you're correct in your analysis and that there's that desire for change among some of the rank and file in the DNC. Marianne, tell people where they can follow you on Substack, your podcasts, and some of the things you're up to. Yeah,
Thank you. Well, people can certainly look at my Substack at mariannewilliamson.substack.com, and the website for the race. Now that we've got those signatures, the website will be up today or tomorrow, but people can certainly follow me on social media. I'm out there. And at this point, I think we have the critical mass of people who understand what the problem is. Now we need a critical mass of people who have the spine and the courage to say we're going to change this, because the assault on our democracy is simply too great to tolerate.
Very well said. Marianne, great to see you.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.